These massive drones are attempting to plant 20 million trees from the sky. But to find out how I ended up here in the middle of this forest, we need to go back 6 months. Because that's when Mr. Beast hit 20 million subs, and someone suggested to celebrate he should plant 20 million trees. It went super viral on Reddit and Twitter, at which point someone else suggested he should team up with me and a bunch of other YouTubers to make it happen. Which got me thinking. And so with that, I made my way to Oregon to meet with Mr. Beast and his crew to plant 20 million trees. One down, 19,999,999 more to go. Yeah!
It's 20 million trees in a 48-hour time period.
The statistics may not be in our favor, but we got grit.
Worm! Worm!
Abort! Abort!
Save it, save it.
These guys are talking a big game, like they know what they're doing, but gonna go do a impromptu pull test. First of all, I don't love the angle. Can I just say that off the bat?
No. Oh no.
Oh wow!
Oh, no.
Okay, so this is an Oregon white oak.
We've been planning all day, solid 8 hours. We're up to like 250 trees. So, I mean, it's a start. It's definitely a start. Can we just say, look who's the dirtiest?
I saw you rubbing stuff on me.
Wow. Just look who's the dirtiest.
Yeah, come on, Mark. Hey, mine's super dirty.
My bat kills. There's a field of trees. 300.
Yep.
After a full day of planning. 300's less than 20 million. So after talking it over, we decided we would play to our strengths. Jimmy was going to try and solve our problem with a tweet recruiting thousands of people, and I was going to pursue a more robotic solution. And so with that, I made my way further up the coast to Washington using a shortcut I knew to see if I could uncover a way to plant trees from the sky. But before I get into that, have you ever thought about where trees actually get their mass from? The knee-jerk reaction is to think it comes from the soil, but that can't be true because if you have a tree in a big pot, as the tree gets bigger, the soil level doesn't go down at all. The answer, as it turns out, is that the mass comes from thin air. The clue is if you look at what the bulk of the tree is actually made of. It's almost entirely carbon. Pretend I'm a tree. Basically, a tree sees a carbon dioxide molecule floating by, then it powers up with energy from the sun using photosynthesis, then it uses that energy to rip the carbon from the oxygen, then it takes that carbon and slaps it on itself to get more swole. And then the tree's like, hey humans, here's some beautiful fresh oxygen you can have back. I don't need it. So it takes the C and leaves us with the O2. That's a sweet deal. And so trees start really small, but in order to get bigger and bigger, they're just sucking more and more carbon out of the air. And so now you can see a tree and appreciate the beauty in the shade, but also that they're just these really massive vacuum bags completely stuffed full of carbon. And so I was in Washington to meet with some people who had a crazy idea that just might be the key to helping Mr. Beast and I plant those 20 million carbon vacuums. What's up? Their company's called Drone Seed, and they're only about 4 years old, and their idea is to use these massive drones to plant trees from the sky. They do this in 2 steps. First, they send out a smaller recon drone that uses lasers to create a 3D map of the terrain, and then from that they use software to find all the best spots to drop the trees to maximize their survivability. And then they create a flight path for each of the drones to fly autonomously. Then you load up the drone with a bunch of these seed pucks that you will drop from the sky. And their design is super clever too, because in each puck, represented by a hockey puck in this case, there's a special cocktail of around 6 seeds specifically chosen for the area where they're planting. And then you have nutrients, sort of like a fertilizer, that will help the seed grow and keep it from drying out. And then because you don't want a bunch of squirrels or mice just making a buffet out of all the seeds you drop, you need some way to condition them to give the whole experience just a 1-star review.
So ghost peppers, they're an olfactory and gustatory deterrent, which means if you eat it, you know, the obvious reaction, and on the way out it's the same thing.
Yeah,
and
gustatory is the euphemism for on the way out. I ate Taco Bell last night and had some gustatory issues as well. And then once you secure the puck dropper to the drone, it's time to fly. Light the fires, kick the tires. Dude, that's like a mini house just flying. That is wild. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it's so funny to me. It really just looks like mechanized poop. In some ways, this sort of like mimics Mother Nature, right? Because like a bird eats a seed, it flies, it poops it, and there's like nourishment around that seed, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's biomimicry.
And this is brutal terrain. You wouldn't be wanting to walk down in here. So to be able to access this from the sky is a really big deal. After wildfires, we used to rely on Mother Nature to do reforestation for us, but due to some factors related to climate change, 40% of the time now, we're seeing tall shrubs grow back instead of big old trees that can literally suck up tons of carbon. And that's an example where drones are perfect because they can get in right away and start planting trees in the smoldering remains where it's too dangerous for humans to be on the ground. Even with only 3 drones, you can reforest an area 6 times faster than a normal planting crew. If you can nail a fleet like this with just 3, you could just scale this up. You can imagine the potential where, you know, you have a swarm of 100 drones. The work Drone Seed is doing is awesome. It gives me so much hope when I see people use really cool technology to solve really big problems. But they're still fine-tuning their system before they massively scale up. So they just aren't going to be able to help us plant the 20 million trees in time. Which is why we've been talking with all our YouTube creator friends for the past 5 months. And we decided if we were actually gonna plant 20 million trees by 2020, we would need to bring the entire YouTube community together on this.
I'm stoked. Let's plant some trees.
I'm so excited.
It could be one of the craziest things that YouTube has ever seen. Just so many people. We could end up with too many trees.
We're calling it Team Trees, and we went through a bunch of different options on how to pull this off, and eventually settled on working with the Arbor Day Foundation. They're the longest running, most well-respected tree planting nonprofit, and we made a deal with them that for every $1 we give them, they would plant 1 tree. It's basically magic, and I had to prove that to my buddy Thomas. Here's $1. I'm gonna call my buddy Zach King here. Zach King, ooh la la.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey Zach, we've got $1 for you.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna take the $1, put it in some dirt, and then pull.
Ooh.
And you get a tree.
Oh, wow. Pretty slick. And so despite mine and Mr. Beast's best effort, we need your help. Because to plant 20 million trees, we're really looking to raise $20 million. That's just an insane goal, especially when you only have 2 short months to pull it off. But starting today, you're gonna see the entire YouTube community come together on this like you've never seen before.
20 million trees. I am so in.
Proud members of Team Trees, we're filming a music video.
Don't get all the way.
I will plant at least a couple of trees.
The reason I'm most excited about this is it feels like the end of Power Rangers when they would all assemble into the big thing and fight stuff together and do good.
This will absolutely be historic, and we need you on Team Trees. This is our chance to end this decade on a super strong note. It's a constructive way to tell the policymakers that this generation and our community on YouTube truly cares about the environment. It's basically all of us joining together to give a massive fist bump to frickin' Mother Earth. I personally will be planting 50,000 trees by donating $50,000. But that's still way less than 20 million, so join me and Mr. Beast and all your favorite YouTube creators by clicking that blue button right over there and planting as many trees as you can afford right now. We honestly need you. If you're a working adult, consider how many trees you're willing to plant to send a message. If you're a kid, talk to your parents about this. Get creative and do some chores to earn some money. Ask for some freaking trees for Christmas. You can pick up 20 littered soda cans and then recycle them, and that's literally 1 more tree that will exist in the world than if you wouldn't have done that. This is all hands on deck, so either click that blue button or go to teamtrees.org and turn your dollars into trees. And then for like the next 2 months, make sure you like and double tap and retweet anything having to do with Team Trees and harass your favorite creators to join if they somehow haven't already. And so now, in exchange for joining Team Trees, if you've ever wondered how we really know climate change is occurring, stick with me for 2 minutes. Because I'm going to break it down real simple using this column of ice. A while back, scientists went down to Antarctica and drilled out a bunch of ice cores like this. And what's cool is that because ice layers up over time, the really old ice is at the bottom and the newer ice is on top. Now, as you know, ice traps air bubbles. So as you move your way down the column, you get these little pristine pockets of air going back in time. What they found was that CO2 levels in the atmosphere naturally fluctuate from about 200 to 300. But then starting with the Industrial Revolution, revolution, we started burning way more coal, which is made from dead trees, and we started burning down forests for resources to keep pace with a growing population. The problem with both of these is we're taking all this carbon that was in the ground in these massive carbon vacuum bags, and we're putting it back into the air at a super unnatural rate. So much so that around 1950, we busted into the 300s for the first time in at least a million years. And we weren't done yet, because just 4 years ago in 2015, we broke into the 400s. When I started writing the script for this video, we were at 411. Today we're at 412. And this is the actual current data from NASA's excellent website, which does a great job laying out all the data they've gathered on climate change. A lot of my old friends at NASA played a role in collecting this data. Now here's the punchline and why all of this matters. If you independently look at average temperature over the past million years and then overlay it with average CO2 in the atmosphere, they match up pretty much exactly. So this relatively sudden spike of all the CO2 in the air is not a good thing. And sure enough, right now, we are consistently breaking the hottest month on Earth records, which has a lot of knock-on effects, which will start snowballing unless we can band together and reverse the trend. And it's important to note with regards to Team Trees that 20 million trees by 2020 isn't going to cure climate change, but it's a step in the right direction and a constructive, positive way to send the message that we see the science and we care. So thanks for watching, and thanks for doing your part to make a difference. I am so stoked. We totally got this. I want to give a massive shout out to Wix, who supported the making of this video. I warned them that this was going to be the worst converting ad read in history because I was going to send everyone away to donate before I got to this part. So to the 5 of you that made it this far, please make a mental note in your brain right here under the Wix category that says they're one of the good guys. And I love them, and I've been using them for several years now, not just because they're good humans that care about the earth, but because they have the best platform for making beautiful websites quickly and efficiently. To demonstrate how efficient it is to use all the drag and drop tools, I recreated the Team Trees website from scratch. As you can see, I can delete or select and resize or drag any element on the page. And then you could always preview to see how things would look to a visitor on your site. I'm using the Wix payment feature here, which is also super user-friendly to set up. There are plenty of other built-in options as well, like putting a social feed on your site. And if you want to get real fancy, Corvid by Wix lets you create super customized elements. Think of all the trees you could save if you could just tell people to visit your website instead of printing out paper brochures. So to create your own personal Wix website, go to wix.com/go/markrober or use the link in the video description. Thanks for watching.